questions, Maceo's going to walk around a mic
Okay.
to the participants.
Okay.
That way live streamers can hear it.
Okay.
And then we're all
Perfect.
cool.
Testing. Okay.
Hi team, welcome back. So glad that you're all here. Welcome to the physical and emotional wellness panel of the day. So excited to have these three amazing women here with us. We can't wait to learn from them. Before we get started, we just want to give a really big shout out to all of our sponsors today. Soak and Sage Spa, Amazing Lash Studio, Skin Haven Clinic, Cairo One, Creative Block, the space that we're in right now. They donated this space to us. Can we please give them a big round of applause? Thank you so much. And our live streamers are so amazing with Creative Block. We've got Maceo and we've got Gooch up here too. So thank you to them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very, very grateful for their services today. And let's go ahead and get started with our panel. Emotional Physical Wellness panel starting here. We've got Sophia Malavitsis, and we've got Anna Joshika, and we have Dr. Stephanie Irwin. If we could please have a big round of applause for them. Really quick, we're going to give them a good introduction of what it is that they do. You'll also see it behind them right up here. Feel free to follow them on social media too to stay updated. But Sophia is a licensed mental health counselor and founder of Sophia Eden Therapy. She works with teens and young adults, focusing on uncovering their inner strengths to move them towards living a more fulfilled life. Sophia uses a compassionate, directive, and humor-based approach that allows individuals to feel comfortable showing up as their authentic selves. In addition to being a therapist, Sophia is passionate about lifting, and she shares this with teaching strength and conditioning classes at Dynamics in Bellevue.
Yes.
Hey, thank you for being
so
here.
much.
And then Anna, welcome Anna. We've got Anna is a dedicated personal trainer and the visionary behind Joshua Juice, a cold pressed juice co. and Gym Girls Only clothing line. With over a decade of experience as a certified speed and strength coach for female athletes, Anna specializes in empowering women to cultivate stronger, more resilient bodies. She expertly combines her scientific understanding and athletic prowess to tailor personalized training programs that inspire women to achieve their fitness goals. Thank you. And welcome, Dr. Stephanie Irwin. Thank you so much for being here. Stephanie is the owner and founder of Rise Performance and Health, a physical therapy and health coaching company in Seattle. She is the co-founder of a local network of women in minority-owned businesses called the Seattle Wellness Collective. She received her Doctor of Physical Therapy at Boston University and Bachelor of Science at Seattle Pacific University. She's a board-certified orthopedic specialist and a fellow of the American Academy of Orthopedic Manual Therapy.
Thank you. Yeah. Just to describe what all of that means, which doesn't really matter, what I get to do is I get to combine holistic health coaching with physical therapy and help my patients and our community learn how to invest in ourselves first rather than last, so that we can invest more in the world. And I really believe that that would change the world if we all learn to invest in ourselves more holistically and deeply. So that is what I do.
Thanks for sharing that and elaborating on that. I love how you bring up the importance of taking care of yourself first. I feel like that's a really good segue into one of our group questions on how each of you are entrepreneurs and are of service to others every single day in your life. How do you practice what you preach in your own life when it comes to holistic wellness, and what does holistic wellness mean to you?
So I make it a point to move my body in some way every day. At the beginning of this year, I started yoga. I was not flexible at all. And now I am, because I've been going consistently for the entire year. And then I also love to just go for like a 15-minute walk, or if I I can get a lift in before I train my clients, that is everything. I think it's a little harder to put myself last and do it after I've trained everybody else. So I just make sure that I give myself some movement each day. And I think that that's the most beneficial for me as an entrepreneur, because if I don't do that, then I feel like I'm putting myself last. And so as an entrepreneur, I have to put myself first, and then I can. But that's all I have to say. You can go.
Thank you. And we're going to practice speaking into the mic too,
Okay.
just so that our live streamers can hear. Cool. We'll pass them around.
Absolutely. Yeah, first of all, it's hard. It's hard as an entrepreneur, but also as all of us know, it's hard in general. And so, but that was like the premise of starting my business was I needed to learn how to invest in myself first. So that meant that even as I got busier, I couldn't let that go. So I have to stick to boundaries, and I use a calendar. It is on my calendar that I have specific workouts around different parts of my physical health, getting my resistance training, my mobility work, doing my meditations daily, working on my cardiovascular endurance. And I have different days that I do that. I have to sometimes do that with like a class or a partner to keep myself accountable, but I have it set for every day so that I know I'm taking care of myself. And then I start my mornings with my meditation. And I had to work on this for a while to stay consistent. But I do, for my meditation, I practice specific diaphragmatic breathing and mindfulness. And I had to get to a point eventually where I made it a habit so that I don't go into my day before I do that. And I notice a huge difference in how I approach my clients, working in a space of love and empathy and listening is a huge difference when I'm able to make sure I consistently work on my morning meditations. Lastly, I'll say as a strategy, I have my brother call me in the mornings because I don't like waking up early. And so he calls me and is like, all right, let's tackle the day. Go get your workout in. Because, listen, I don't like getting up early, but I need to do it to take care of myself and focus on my sleep. So if y'all need accountability buddies, I am all for them.
Well, I think first of all, ditto to what they just said. I think all of us share the same viewpoint of taking care of our physical bodies is so important through mindfulness, through movement, which like we hear it all the time. We see it on social media, like movement is medicine. And I think it is, and we should be moving our body. I think from my perspective, it's so important to incorporate that with like mental health. Obviously I'm a therapist, so that's what I do. So yes, I do all the things, move my body. And also too, I think all of us in some way we're providing a service to other people, which is really exhausting. It's hard to carry other people's things. I know for myself as a therapist, it's hard to hold other people's stuff when my stuff is also really heavy. And so I have to remind myself that there are those days when I have to cancel clients, or sometimes they ask me how I'm doing and I'm honest that it's been a rough day. And even in that, modeling to my clients that, right, I'm also human and sometimes I have to take time off and I have to cancel things. I have to let things go to create space for myself, though it feels really guilty in the moment. I remind myself, like, I'm modeling what that looks like. And I hope that that gives somebody else permission to also put something down or cancel something that is just not serving them or just not making them feel great. So yes to all the movement, and also like kind of going off of boundaries, right? Like having really strong boundaries around time, and also having boundaries around making time for, ourselves and movement, right? Like blocking that off in a calendar, whatever that looks like, in the same way that you'd block off time for a doctor's appointment, blocking off time to do nothing, to rot in bed, to go for a walk, like whatever feels good to you, I think is really, really important. And also like finding what works for you, what is going to work for us maybe, and how we can be well, both mentally and emotionally, spiritually. Everything might not work for you as an individual. So it's finding what's going to work for you and making that sustainable at the end of the day.
It's so important, especially the part where you bring up about finding what's right for you. And I love how the three of you together brought in the idea of instilling boundaries. I feel like that's a really great segue into how fast paced our world is every single day and the constant connectivity that we're in. Technology left and right, phones dinging right and left. We have heightened stress levels that this tends to contribute to. And so, how do you manage stress?
Again, this year has changed my life with yoga. I think that is I the way that I approach life is so different because of yoga. I feel like before I started to do yoga, I didn't really breathe. I would snap really quickly. I am a Virgo, and so yeah, everybody's laughing because they know. I like things a certain way. Like when I say a certain way, and that can stress me the hell out, okay? And so I think that this year with yoga slowing me all the way down on a constant like basis, I can breathe. And so my stress management has been so much better. And also, it's a time where I can go and I don't have to think about what I'm going to do next. I don't have my phone. So I think that having something, it doesn't have to be yoga, but having a quiet time where you're not in control and you're able to breathe, essentially makes for times that are stressful, you can come back to that space where you're like, wait a minute, if I took a second and breathe, then now I can think and then I can act. And I used to just be so quick to act, so quick to be upset, so quick if things aren't the way that they're supposed to be. And now I'm like, are you going with the flow? What? What is this? And it just feels so good. Like I feel so much more maturity and taking my time and thinking things through. And so I feel like I manage stress by using movement and breath. So, yeah.
Well said. Yeah, good practices. Very similar. I really love key element for me as I've been growing my business, which is fairly new and coming up on 3 years, but like the increasing responsibilities, the increasing stress levels, it becomes like so evident and vital that what I was talking about before, the investing in yourself, it's like, oh, I don't have an option. And I don't have an option to not figure out even better ways to manage my stress. And so for me, a huge part is finding my ways to be present. And what I've learned is I need a lot of it. I do that a few ways. Like I mentioned, how I do my meditations in the morning is with mindfulness. And what I actually think about is I spend time in my body doing diaphragmatic breathing, but thinking about loving me and what that could feel like in a physical space. And that helps me become really present. I then go through that to then extend what does it feel like inside my body to love everyone in the world. And that helps me be very present without anything else. But I also dance. I work with a lot of dancers and I do a lot of Latin dance, and dance is my practice of presentness. When we're in partnership, I mostly follow, for those of you who know the lingo of dance, and I don't have an option to not be present if I'm going to follow, because if I miss like even a couple seconds, I'm going to miss some cues, and I'm going to miss the connectedness. So dance is a part of my practice of presentness to bring down my cortisol levels, and to manage my stress, as well as engaging in conversation. So what I've been trying to work on with myself lately, as my responsibilities have been increasing, is not only giving myself permission, but challenging myself to ask people in my life who are close to me to sit with me. When I say sit with me, I mean share in the spaces where I can be really present with them, and they're open and receiving for me to share things that I'm going through. It's very hard, like Sophia had alluded to carry so much while you're trying to be all these things for so many other people. And so this newer element of my stress management has been really trying to press into some close relationships. And historically, I've not been one to be good at asking for help. Pretty terrible at it. But I've been growing, and that is my new challenge. And it's been really, really helpful to invite someone into that space and for me to be present with them as well.
There's like so much mindfulness going on, and I feel like I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm like deep breathing, like gross. If you're one of those people who doesn't like to meditate and deep breathe, like I'm your gal, which is weird because I'm a therapist, but that's just also kind of my style. And I think that that's just what like I don't respond very well to. And I don't know, maybe that's kind of an indication of what I should lean more into, is like, why is this uncomfortable? And I should probably like do it more. But also I think it goes to like honoring like who we are as people. And I think that what that looks like for me, I hear a lot in my office in session with people, a lot of shoulds. And if you're my client, you know, we don't do shoulds in my office because that's self-judgment. So when I hear someone say, oh, but I know I should, I'm like, nope, we're stopping that right now. We're going to reframe it. Because I don't like judgment in my own life. I don't like my friends judging themselves. I don't like judgment of other people. So we're not going to do that to ourselves. And so I think what that looks like when it comes to self like care and balancing everything is I don't should myself, right? So I know that I need to go to bed at 8 p.m. and that's me. And everyone can say, oh my God, like that's so boring. And oh, like what do you mean you're a grandma? Like I know that that's what works for me, and that's honoring I need a lot of sleep because I'm just someone who functions better with a lot of sleep. I don't feel at my best when I don't have a lot of sleep. So I can sit here and I can judge myself and say, oh my God, I wish that I should be able to function with less sleep. Or I could just say, this is just who I am. And I'm going to honor that. And I'm going to make changes in my life that are in alignment with who I am. I don't like hanging out in groups. I don't know why. That's very overwhelming for me. And so that looks like not putting myself in situations where I know I don't function best and I know that they're going to drain me. And I think that begins with a like really firm understanding of who we are as people and what works best for us. And instead of judging and shaming ourselves for, well, this works for somebody else and so it should work for me, or just kind of like stopping that and understanding like, wait, why am I doing that? And how is it serving me in a positive way? Or like, how can I learn to just understand myself more and work with myself, not against myself? So I think that it really comes from like just knowing ourselves and knowing like what works best for us. You know, I love that like meditation and yoga works so well for you ladies. And, you know, there's something in me that's like, you know, like I'm not present. And so how can I engage in the things that make me feel present, and maybe not the things that social media is telling me that should make me feel present, because it might not work for me.
That's super empowering, and I can hear so many people in the audience resonating with that as well. And how profound is it to reframe that thought of like, this might work for someone else, this doesn't work for me, but not shaming yourself from that is exactly what I'm hearing you say, and I think that's a beautiful thing. At the same time, honoring what works for others. I love that so much, and I think I'm going to aim a question at each of you individually based on your backgrounds, and then kind of just open up the space on everything we've been learning about together and let this conversation flow and be what you all want it to be as well. But I'd love to, Sophia, ask you a question about, we just touched on all the stress management. But as a result of stress in the modern world, many people are experiencing anxiety, and we hear that everywhere. And we might feel that all the time. And people are seeking to understand their anxiety. And so in your experience, how do different therapeutic modalities impact the way clients cope with and understand their anxiety and emotions?
Oh, that's kind of a hard one because there's so many different therapeutic modalities, and I don't practice all of them, obviously. And I think that first of all, I'm gonna take that as a really good opportunity to tell people find a therapist that works for you, that you vibe with. And a good therapist will not. They will seek to understand you and understand what you need and maybe what modality is going to work for you because I think you look at a therapist website, right? And it's like, I utilize this, and this CBT, narrative therapy, and ACT. And you're like, what the hell is that? And I understand it. And I tell people when I do consults with them, it's not like we all have a bunch of tools in our toolbox in terms of like therapy goes. Some people, use these different modalities and that's amazing. And, they're all kind of attacking the same things. But at the same time, I really think it more boils down to the relationship that you have with your therapist. I think that that's about 90% of it is finding someone that you feel safe with, that you are going to feel like you're comfortable to kind of unload your heaviest stuff on. So I tell people when I talk to them on the phone, if you don't like me and you just don't like we're not vibing, then there's no judgment, like there's no pressure. So I'm first going to say that. And then I think there's a ton of different therapeutic modalities. So for example, some ones that I like to incorporate are like narrative therapy, which is basically we all kind of have an internal dialogue that's going on, right? About the world, about ourselves. And that was shaped through, things that we were taught in childhood, where we grew up, like all these, just life factors that are different for each person. And so our anxiety also has a narrative going on. And so sometimes I find it helpful with clients to understand like, okay, what is a story that anxiety is telling me? Right? Like it's telling me that if I go here that I'm going to fall and people are going to laugh at me, for example. I don't know. And how can we rewrite that narrative to be something that's a little bit more reflective and accurate of who you are right now? Because that's anxiety's narrative. And I kind of like that because it externalizes anxiety, which I think is important. We kind of think that like anxiety becomes us and that I am anxiety, and we're not. It's like this other thing. And so I kind of like to attack it from that because if I can take this thing outside of me and I can look at it objectively, then I feel like I have a little bit more control and a little bit more power rather than it's just like inside of me. So that's kind of an example of narrative therapy. I also like to incorporate like CBT, for example, which is a lot of like skill-based stuff. So reframing, our thoughts and challenging them, which I think is super important, right? It's like we have thoughts that become feelings that then become behaviors, and then they kind of happen in this automatic loop. And if I can challenge the thought that I'm having, that might elicit a different feeling, and then it might change my behavior, which I think is really helpful. And also I think that we're missing a lot of backstory because I'm like, okay, wait, but why are we falling into this like loop all the time? And that's where I have to pull in other modalities, for example. But I think that there are many different ones. Have a good therapist that will find one that works for you and resonates with you. And also like whatever is going to work for you. I really like to attack anxiety also, though, as like anxiety is an alarm system that's going off in our body. It's like something is what's going on here. It's telling me something. It's not like the devil. It's actually something that should be worked with. It's something that should be explored in a very curious way of like, oh, that's interesting. I'm feeling really anxious around this thing. What's going on? Instead of, oh my God, I'm anxious and this is a bad thing. Because then now there's judgment, there's shame, like all these really insidious emotions that are just really tricky to parse out. So I know that was kind of a long-winded answer and kind of a non-answer, but there's a lot.
That was really awesome though, because you're giving this perspective of seeing your anxiety as something that is not you, but it's a story that we tell ourselves and then tend to identify with. But the fact that you are questioning that and you use the word curious, being curious about your anxiety, is that even true? And saying it out loud, like that was such a powerful tool that you just gave us. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think like curiosity just about ourselves is one of the greatest things that we can have in general. Like, right, how can I just be curious about why I'm feeling this way? How can I be curious about why I'm having this reaction instead of this is dumb or I shouldn't be having this reaction? That I always tell my clients, approaching ourselves with curiosity and others with curiosity typically brings us closer to people. It brings us closer to ourselves. When we feel judgment from someone or we feel like we're shaming ourselves, I just want to like run in a corner and hide. I don't want to do anything about it. I want to like curl in a ball because I feel crappy about myself now. So, yeah, be curious.
Thank you for saying that. Anna, I'd love to ask you a question about you founded the clothing brand Gym Girls Only, and check out her amazing t-shirt. Thank you. She made this today. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
He gave me a thumbs up. I believed him.
I love it. You founded the clothing brand Gym Girls Only, beautiful, and you often host community events hand in hand with your brand. In your opinion, what role does community play in achieving how people can cultivate supportive communities on their wellness journey? And sorry, how does community play? What role does community play in achieving and maintaining someone's wellness?
Okay, so I had my first event in September, and the joy, everywhere I looked, women were smiling, laughing, interacting, and that's what like is the most important thing to me. It had 3 different parts, so we started with a walk. Then we went into strength training, which is abs and booty, which is my like main class. And then we did yoga. And I think that showing up to those things and meeting new people, then you can say, okay, I met this woman here. Me and her were talking about some things that we're going to do. And it's like you show up, you meet someone, you find out about a new thing, you find out about another community and then another community. And now all of these women are coming together on a regular basis. And we're not even thinking about the workout. We're thinking about the girls we're going to see who are all in this together with us. And so that's why I created Gym Girls Only, is because I wanted it to be an extremely fun thing and environment for women, a space where women can come and enjoy each other and laugh and also sweat, right? And not be like bogged down about the work week or being a mom or being an entrepreneur. We're just here to interact, have fun, and enjoy each other. And so I think that the more people that show up, the community continues to grow, and that piece of it is so important. So I would say that the biggest part of Gym Girls Only and the community aspect is that the women show up. And if you can't show up, you tell somebody about it. And I think that that's pretty much what Gym Girls Only is for me, is just like creating a very loving and empowering, happy, joyous, free space for women. And then put the clothes on. Put the clothes on. Look freaking cute as a button. Accessorize it up. Put your earrings on. Put your makeup on. Put the butterflies in your hair, bracelets, charms, whatever. And then throw that t-shirt on and go to the gym. And step high, okay? Chest up. Look at me. I look so cute. Oh, you like it? Thank you. I know I've been working out. I've been doing it. So I think that that's what it is. I just really want people to feel really good, look really good, and enjoy the women around them. And also, with that being said, all genders are also welcome. So pull up. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love how you describe it as an outlet. Like, you might have your work week might look like something every day. You show up to it every single day, but this is something that you can go to for you, and not only you, the people that you're meeting there, and the emotions that you're describing of joy, showing up as yourself and looking cute while you do it is just so beautiful. Thank you.
And I do want to add, I am having a walking event for breast cancer next Sunday from 10:30 to 11:30 down on 23rd and King, which is 5 minutes from here. We're going to walk from there all the way down to beautiful Lake Washington and back. I posted it on my Instagram so you can kind of see the views. It's so bomb. We're going to walk through a trail. And I just want us to come together. Like, it's free. Show up.
We'll see everybody there, right? Next week. So fun. All right, Dr. Stephanie Irwin, gonna ask you a personal question. You got it, check.
Hello. We're on. Yes, you may.
Yay.
Hannah, thank you.
You have an extensive background in working with clients who have chronic pain. What's one way you assist your clients when they come to you with chronic pain?
Great question. Yeah, there are many ways. I typically tend to work with people in the space of chronic pain who are also really active or once were. And so I think a really important approach is understanding the brain, which is part of my specialty of how does the brain work? What that's like the field of pain neuroscience is how is pain experienced in the body. And so all pain is only experienced by the brain. It's the only way we can experience any kind of pain is how our brain interprets information. And I think one of many ways, but one core tenet for me is to help people understand what is the neurophysiology of pain in a simple way. I don't use that word. But if we understand what is the process of pain and how does it work, we can automatically, our brain can already start to dampen those signals of feeling unsafe because we have more understanding. Pain is elevated when we are afraid. We have an association thinking that this injury or this disease or this diagnosis is going to lead to something that is taking away some element of our life, right? That could be our ability to work, play with our kids. That could be our ability to run our business. That could be our ability to interact with our partner in the way or show up in the way that we want to show up. I start with helping people understand the basic physiology so that there isn't judgment around our pain, because if we are in pain, if we are in persistent pain, there's a lot of space of judgment there. People get weary, it's hard, no one else understands what you're going through. People in your life don't understand it even though they try. It really affects relationships, and I see it again and again where marriages or partnerships, it's impressive when they actually last with people in chronic pain. So I start with helping people understand that what they're experiencing is normal, and this is why, and it's not your fault, and this is how the brain works, so this is how pain works. When we can then understand their fears of if they want to express what is the thing that this pain makes you fearful of, when they're also able to identify that, then we can also understand how do we combat that fear and then train your brain to this movement is safe, right? That breathing is safe, that that sitting on a plane, well, I was going to say is safe. It is actually quite safe, but compared to other things. But I'll utilize visualization to help my patients put themselves in a place, and we do this through graded exposure, to break the associations that our brain has made. Our brain is really good at making associations, and we can start to break down those associations, and we also add in movement to teach our brain what is safe and what our body is capable of. So long-winded answer, but one doesn't work without the other. But that's usually the premise of where we start.
It's so interesting because it's almost like everything that you're just saying then falls into what we were experiencing and talking about with anxiety, the narrative behind it. And honestly, you've shifted my perspective when it comes to pain, because I never thought to ask myself why I might be scared of my pain or in fear for my pain and what that story is that I'm telling myself. And so I hear you talk a lot about reframing and understanding that and having someone like you to talk to so that they can really understand where it is that their pain comes from. And altogether, they're understanding themselves more. So that's really interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
We'd love to open it up to all of you if anybody has more questions to ask. And Maceo is going to pop around with the microphone so that your voice is all elevated and we can hear you. Anybody else have questions for these gals up front? Yeah. Oh.
Yes, all therapists need therapists. I've been in therapy for a very long time and she's not going anywhere. I tell her, I'm like, we're going to go down together. Yeah, because I think also too, there's a lot of pressure of like, I have to come to therapy if like something really bad's happened. And it's not that at all. I tell people all the time, this is an hour out of your week where you get to decide. You get to have complete ownership. If you want to sit here and talk about TV for an hour, we get to do that. If you want to talk about like, you know, what's kind of the harder stuff that's going on, you get to do that. And I like to honor my clients' autonomy in that way, right? I have to remind myself, this isn't about me. And I might have questions about what's going on and I might hear something that I'm like, oh, I want to dig deeper into that. But also like, it's like they get to dictate. And also kind of like in my introduction, I definitely take a directive approach. I don't like to beat around the bush. And I'll tell people like, I've got a really kind of hard question right now. Are you ready for it? Like, and if they're not, I'm like, cool, like I'll hold it. And that's like, so now I think for me as a therapist, yeah, a lot of my therapy experience, my own therapy is, just an hour a week where it's about me. And we really don't, you know, we've kind of hit a lot of the larger stuff that I think that I really needed help with, but now it's just like, you know, kind of maintaining and talking about other like fun life things. And it's someone who I have a established relationship with who is the safest person in the entire world for me. And just having that relationship that I get to like refer back to every week is probably one of the most special things in the world for me. So yes.
Sorry, had to do that. I could have probably walked over there. Hi. This is a question. Something that blew my mind a little while ago, maybe 10 years ago, was this idea. Somebody, maybe one of my therapists, said that what you're experiencing is psychosomatic, and he meant it in like a positive way. Like it is your mind and your body is connected. Like that was a revelation for me. I'm like, oh, the mind and body are, and it's kind of been flourishing ever since, or I've been learning more about it ever since, and this science around mind and body connection and somatics and therapy and all of that. But I'm wondering, so that excites me, but what is exciting to you about the future of your field or the work that you're doing in wellness and fitness and pain management? What are some emerging modalities, new things that are coming up, new styles of Pilates? I don't know, like there's always something new machines, but yeah.
I don't even know what to say. I'm excited to be the person that someone trained with and they no longer are training with me because they don't need me anymore. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for my community to be so large and so many women are there supporting each other and helping each other. I can see it happening and I can see my clients, like I've been consistently training just women since January, and I can see them getting to points where I'm like, shoot, girl, I might need to tell you once a week instead of 3. And I'm excited about that. That's my main goal. I think that, like she's saying, a therapist is forever, but I don't think a personal trainer is forever. Because there should be a point where you can go work out by yourself, or you go try another class or do something different. It's hard to say out loud because that's how I make my ends meet, but I'm excited for my clients to be on their own. But yeah, so that's kind of my mission, is just like building this community so that eventually my clients that were training with me can come to the classes and be like, girl, and I'm like, girl. And, you know, and she's there doing the deadlifts, and I'm like, yeah, all right, put that weight on there, girl. And I'm not afraid that she's gonna hurt her back today. You know what I'm saying? I know them shoulders is rolled back tight and that chest is in it, and then the glutes is firing. We pushing through the heels. I don't have to say nothing to her, so I'm excited about that. Yeah.
By the way, great question. Yeah, I'm excited about so many things. So there's as a physical therapist, like the industry as a whole really, usually just, focuses, it focuses on all elements of physical health, but like really like movement, strength, tissues, diagnoses, like, oh, I tore this, right? And there's been increasing research and continuously around trying to actually understand that better, to understand healing better, to understand pain better. And, our medical community is slow to get that evidence, and it's not really their fault. There's at least minimum 10-year gap from current evidence being published and good evidence getting into practice. And I think that what I'm really excited about is post-COVID, there's been so much more research leaning into what can we do as individuals, being in Western medicine over here, what do we have capacity to do for ourselves that actually changes the game of pain and tissue healing. So what is really cool for me is like diving into seeing some more research coming out on like we can actually change our cortisol levels. So what I want to do in my practice is actually start doing labs and panels where like you can have an understanding of like what are these different elements that are affecting not just how you're feeling in your body, not your overall health, but also like your pain and your tissue healing. And we know now a lot of things that can contribute to that and many more that we don't yet know. But we also know that we can change a lot of it without medications, without surgeries, and that most of the time if we lean into those things, so I talked about my mindfulness practice, the reason why I do it, I did need to practice presentness because I was so bad at it and it was vital. But I work on this with my patients, not for people who like need meditation or anything like that. But when we're able to practice some form of presentness, it changes we have to do it consistently. So 5 minutes every day for at least 2 months, we start seeing a shift in all of our baseline vitals. Our baseline heart rate goes down. Our baseline blood pressure goes down. Our cortisol levels at baseline drop. And more, our hormone levels change. So, we're diving into more and more research of like, how are we spending time on our community, our relationships. Good relationships and community is the number one predictor of longevity in life, hands down. So we need all these elements of health. And the cool thing is that research is actually going there even in Western medicine. And that has been a long time coming. We've known these things for like centuries, right? Different communities have been practicing them. And then Western medicine took a different route. And now to see them combining, I just think there's going to be so much more coming out in the research around understanding how do we really heal our body? How do we keep it in a space of like actual health instead of, what I call like sick care? Like we're just like responding, right, to like sickness that happens as opposed to like getting well in this country. So there's just so many elements that I'm really excited about in that space of how we can really get more homeostasis through our life behaviors. I'm going to stop now. That was real long.
I'm going to kind of like build off of that, honestly, because I share like how you feel about like like somatic, like everything. I ask my clients all the time, like, where does that anxiety sit in your body? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, like, where is it in your body? Can we pinpoint it? What does it feel like? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it, and most of the time they're teenagers, so they're like rolling their eyes at me. And I kind of roll my eyes at myself. But two things I'm really excited about kind of in the mental health field. Number one is that I see younger and younger clients coming there willingly, and like people who started with me as early as 11, and I like look at them and I'm like, you're going to be good. Like I have full faith, like the fact that you're advocating for yourself and you're coming in here every single week and you're showing up at the age of 11, like in between soccer and all the other things. Like, I think that's really, really cool. If I had therapy at 11, like, and had learned the tools that I have now earlier on in life, like, wow, that would probably have saved me a lot of heartache. And so I think that that's really, really cool. And also teenagers just now with TikTok, they come in and they're like, well, I saw this on TikTok. And I'm like, that's not therapy, babe. But it makes me happy to see that more and more that it's just getting younger and younger. They're choosing to be there. I always ask people, like, are you here on your own free will, or did your parents force you to come here? Because I don't want partake in someone being hostage here. So that is really cool to me. And also kind of like building, like Stephanie, off of what you said of like just neural plasticity, I think is really cool. And I think that there's a lot of research coming out about it. I think that we've in the past thought that like our brain was just set. Like, this is just the way that I'm going to think, and I just need to deal with it. And, I think now we're seeing like that our brain is actually like more plastic than we think. And there are certain things that can maybe increase plasticity in the brain, and we can learn new things. We can create new neural pathways. I hear a lot of clients feeling like I'm stuck, like my thoughts just keep going there and I can't get out of it. And like with association, like things are really strong, like with trauma too, right? When you've had something really traumatic happen to you, you've been in a car accident, you don't want to get in a car again. And I totally understand that, right? And how do we, kind of create new neural pathways where you can do these activities that you really want to. So I think that that's really cool, seeing all the research around we can actually change, our brain and associations and all these things. We're not powerless. We have a lot more power than we think. I think that's a really cool thing.
We might have in the collective. I might have one just based off of that. What are some ways that we can create new neural pathways in our brain? Is it like trying new things, changing up your routine? I don't know if anybody wants to pop in. Yeah.
I think it has a lot to do with self-talk. So I'm reading this book right now called Atomic Habits, and something that I've learned, and I feel like I knew it. I taught health at a high school for a few years, and I learned it then, and then I read it in this book, and since working there, it's like I forgot it. So something that they said in the book is, if you don't want to drink anymore, you don't say, I'm trying to quit drinking. You say, I don't drink. So I think that for me is like, okay, if you want to build a lifestyle around health and fitness, what part of it are you doing? And then how can you speak that into existence? So I have talked about yoga a lot, and I just recently started calling myself a yogi. And I felt like, oh my God, who do you think you are? And so I feel like that, and I still feel uncomfortable with it because I feel like I'm still so new, and it's been almost a year now. But I think that can help to create new pathways. It's just when you speak, if you want to change something in your life as far as anything, speak on it, because we're always speaking on the negative things, which is an idea that we created in our minds. And so when you're trying to make that shift, speak it. Even if you're not doing it actively, you're moving more towards it if you speak it.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, at a cellular level, everything, as long as we're alive and usually engaging in things, we're making new neural connections, right? We might be growing different extensions, new synapses. At the neurological level, things that increase that, we're kind of continuously learning more and more, is how do we amplify that, right? And it's all kinds of things, like it's all based on learning, right? So if we move, I work in the space of movement, utilizing movement to change the brain and change our healing. So as we move, right, we're creating new neural connections, right? As we move in different ways, and then we try to do new movement patterns, right? Like, what Anna was talking about. We create new strength that builds new neural connections in our brain as well. So do thought processes and beliefs. So I was talking before about like chronic pain, and like beliefs about our pain, beliefs about our body, then creates a certain neural pathway. So ultimately, if we're working on changing any belief about ourselves, we're also working on changing any movement or learning new information. We're creating new neural connections. But the key to making a new pathway is repetition. We need lots, thousands of repetition. I mean, there's variability in research, but minimum at least 2,000 repetitions to start to create a new motor pattern or neural pattern in our body. And so we need the repetition, right? So if you're going to tell yourself you're a yogi and like start to believe it, and then that changes the blockers in your brain about how you're interacting in that space, you got to do it a lot, right? Same thing with movement. Like there's a reason why we repeat a certain movement we're trying to get better at. Think about like when you are learning a new skill, right? Maybe it's an instrument, like a physical skill, because people can relate to this and think like, tangibly see it, right? If you're learning an instrument or learning to dance, like think about when you first started it and you're like, oh my God, like I couldn't even move my fingers, or there's no coordination, right? But then you kept doing it, right? Over time. Anything, take any task when you're a kid, right? Learning how to ride a bike, walk, etc., right? We need the repetition to build the new pathway, to build on the new connections.
And I think that goes also for just like the mental health aspect of it too, which is right. Like I said, taking a very directive approach, like I'm going to challenge you and we're going to come up with a new way of thinking about something or a new just way of being. And it's going to be really, really uncomfortable. And, like that doesn't mean that we stop or we, like we meet some resistance. So, like that's it. But like we keep going even when it's hard, right? And just consistently like challenging that. And I tell people like sit in that discomfort. I'll talk about it with you all day long of like, they'll be like, it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be, right? Like we're trying to do something new. We're trying to, make these new connections and then eventually kind of solidify it. So, yeah, I mean, it's like do the thing that sounds scary and just keep doing it.
Thank you so much, ladies, on not only the questions and answers that you've given us, but your background that you're bringing to the table and your expertise and stepping into this space so authentically to share. I don't want to take up more time. I think we're up on 3 p.m. Does anybody have the clock on them? Time? Oh my gosh, we've overstayed our welcome up in here. But you know what we're going to do? If you stay updated with these ladies, we had their social media up here. It just went blank because our computer died, but we'll make sure to have that for all of you. And we are going to finish up with a little raffle. We're going to do our raffle and then send you all off. And we have a little post-event survey if you would love to, we'd love it if you could scan our QR code on the way out and fill that out. But we'll go ahead and, oh, perfect, thank you. We'll go ahead and do our raffle.
Computer, and then this will go.
There's a plug.
There's a plug
below
there.
the,
Perfect.
TV.
Thank you so much. Oh, the other way.
All right. Cool. Perfect. Cool. All right. We'll do the raffle real quick, and then we'll get the QR code up here for our post-event survey. If we could give these ladies a round of applause. Thank you so much. And a big, big shout out and thank you to Creative Block for allowing us to be in their space, their live stream, everything. And a big thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you for being here. Yay. All right. Do you want to?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'll shake it around a little bit.
The winner of the raffle is
325.
Oh wait, we might need to get out our tickets.
Oh yeah, let's
maybe.
give everyone a second. My laptop is dead. Like it's like give me a moment. I turn it on. It's like
It's okay.
Does everyone have their tickets ready?
We ready?
All right, 325067.
Yay! Claire, is it Claire? Yay! Congrats, Claire! Woo! Amazing! Cool. Cool. No worries, you good?
It needs to get some battery.
Some juice back up?
And then it'll be.
We can always put it on our phone too, yeah, on the way out.
Yeah, I think we have.
We can
have
post
the
it on our
QR
social
code. Oh, I have the Canva. Okay, here, let me just like show it around to people, and then we can just talk like once again like this is us and
Yeah.
we're coming, and
Okay.
then we can talk next year's
Okay.
event. While you do that, I will pass around
Pass
the
it up.
QR code.
All right. Really quick, everybody, we just wanted to say a really big thank you to all of you for being here, the first ever Seattle Wellness Summit. Thank you so much. Miracle and I have loved being behind the scenes for this for the last 4 months, planning and doing all the things. We are super excited to announce Seattle Wellness Summit happening next year, same weekend. What is it,
October 18th, 2025.
So maybe marking your calendars for that if you'd like to get up in on the next one. We're going to check in on our laptop. We've got a little survey for you all to fill out on your way out if you're up for it. We just really want to hear your feedback and see if there's anything that we can improve upon for next year. And once again, thank you. Thank you so much to our panelists. And thank you to all of our sponsors, too. Yay!